Hey there, traders. It's the Bitcoin Beast talking at you. Today we're going to talk about proof of work. If you've liked what you've heard uh, and seen on this channel, please hit like and subscribe. It's really important that you do that so that we can get the message out there. I know I'm not the most cleanest channel in the world, but I do what I can, and I feel like I have something of value to contribute. But anyway, today I want to talk about the proof of work and why it is the superior form of money. Proof of work versus proof of stake versus uh, proof of weapons, as Simon Dixon likes to call it. So please hit like and subscribe, and let's get to it. Of course, we're going to talk about Jerome Powell first, the mastermind, the wizard, so you speak, the man behind the curtain that prints money. And I think a lot of people get this confused. They don't print money out of thin air. That they are stealing future prosperity to pay for today, and it's only can get exponentially worse because you are borrowing children's energy to pay for today, or stealing it, as is more appropriate term. And so there's two ways they do this. One way is through printing of reserves, and that's what Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve do. They are the lender of last resort. Now, normally banks, all the money is generated through interest and loans paid by banks that they have, and they hold the money that you put in those banks in reserve. Hopefully you don't pull most of it out and create a bank run, because they loaned out way more money, 10 times, 100 times more money than they actually have. That's how the majority of the money is created. So it's stealing your energy and your children's energy through the interest on those loans. It's a type of tax to create the money supply and keep that velocity going. The other way, that's where the majority of it is. But the way the Federal Reserve works is that once in a while the system breaks down. And so the banks have to go to what's called the lender of last resort. And all these major banks have accounts in the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve prints the money out of nothing. So that's what inflates the money supply. And then the banks borrow against that. They lend that money out to you, because they can't get it from any place else. They can't get it from the private sector. And then you pay back that money plus interest, and then they take that interest and pay back the loan, and then that money disappears. That's how it's supposed to work. But the federal balance sheet has exploded over the years. It's supposed to be contracted over when there's good times, and then they stop doing that. And the reason why they stopped doing that is because they figured out that it doesn't really affect consumer price goods as much as they thought it did, that they thought it would. It does affect the price of stocks, bonds, real estate, things like that. Those explode in value. So that's why they do it. That's why they like it. That's why the rich like it. And that's why it's going to be very difficult to get rid of, is because the rich like it, and they will convince the middle class that the poor are the evil ones, and vice versa. The poor blame the rich because they're not paying their fair share of taxes, when all of that is bullshit and bogus. It's the money system itself. So that's the first area. You think of money in two areas. That's base layer money. So that's what the Federal Reserve does. Then the Treasury comes along and they print T-bills. That's the money that they spend for the soldiers, the workers of the government, paying for subsidies for infrastructure, for weapons, for things like that. When the government needs money, they issue the T-bills, and then the banks will bid on those T-bills, or individuals, or big large corporations, sovereign individuals. There's a lot of money, and then if nobody buys those T-bills, then the Fed again cranks up the printing press and creates the money to buy those T-bills, and then distributes them through the banks, and then they have their accounts there, and then the banks are supposed to pay that back through the interest on the loans that they give to you for money that they got from stealing from your children. That's why I say I hate the saying They print the money out of thin air. They do not print the money out of thin air. They print the money on the backs, the future energy that your work does. And that's when we get to the next one. The law of conservation of energy will not be denied. Our whole universe is made up of atoms. And then there's subatomic particles of these atoms. And then there's all sorts of chemical reactions going on inside my brain to fire off my arm muscles so that I move this mouse around like this. And then the computer is generating energy and firing off all these electrons to create the screen that you're seeing in front of you right now. So it's all atomic. When you take things down to the atomic level, that's where the source of everything comes from, is from the atomic level. And then, so energy is the transfer of atoms, whether it's at the atomic level, at the chemical compound level, where you're like combusting gasoline or moving electrons along a wire. And then it can even go down to the subatomic level where you're having fission and fusion energy exploding. And we can tap into that. And that's what Bitcoin does, is that it taps into that energy. And you are energy. Your atoms that create your body, there's all sorts of electronic and chemical processes going on inside your body. So basically everything is energy. E equals mc squared. And I like to think of E equals mc squared as everything equals mass times a really big number, the speed of light, squared. So it's even a really bigger number. So if you have everything times its mass, if you have everything is infinite and the mass is infinite, and then it's even a bigger infinity. So there is no shortage of energy. What there is a shortage of incentives to capture and mine that energy. And the current system requires guns, violence, caging your energy, your children's energy, if they're not doing what you want them to do, to follow along with this system where they keep stealing children's energy out of the future to pay for today. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. That's why there's a bigger wealth gap every time. And it's not capitalism. It's the money system itself. That's the part that people miss, because they want to say that it's printed out of thin air, and it's not printed out of thin air. Essential workers. I'm essential. Oops, hang on. Come on. Why are you doing that? There we go. Essential workers are the people that it's our energy that creates the environment, the economy, the people that actually out here doing the work, the people that are pulling debt, it's all smoke and mirrors, and our energy is what's creating their wealth. So I may sound a bit Marxist. This is where my left-leaning tendencies come in. They say that because they're taking the risk on the money, stealing children's future energy to pay for today, that they're taking on all the risk while we're doing all the work. Whereas, the money system itself rewards those people that steal the energy from the future, and it harms the people that are actually out here doing the work. When we get to artificial intelligence, it's coming up in the next decade, within the next decade. If your job requires nothing more than you talking or pushing a mouse, you're probably going to be out of a job within the decade. People that are out there doing trades, that are doing real wide work, electricians, plumbers, truck drivers, the sheer amount of robotics needed to replace our jobs is going to cost huge amounts of money. And the only way you can get that money to steal that is to steal it from the future children. So it creates this perpetual cycle where the rich get richer because they take the risk with quotes, to steal from your children's energy from the future to pay for today, and then the poor get poorer, so there's less people to actually uh, buy the goods and services that the rich people say that everybody needs. But there's nobody to buy them, then that's when and that's when empires collapse. They just keep stealing too much from the future to expand their empire, their wealth, and then eventually there's nobody there to participate in the empire, and the empire collapses. So that's what's going to happen. And then with the artificial intelligence, most of those jobs are going to be moved within the next 10 years. People that have trade jobs, that are physically doing things, the amount of robotics and the money that it'll take to replace them is far supersedes the amount of money it'll take to replace people that are just pushing a mouse and flapping their jaw. Computers can do that now. In 5 years, they're going to be doing that job. 10 to 20, maybe 30 years, then there'll be enough robotics there. But until the money is fixed, the only way that's going to happen is to steal from the future, which harms the vast majority of people. So that's why the system is unsustainable. Bitcoin, the incentive to mine Bitcoin for a profit is that you have to find cheap, clean, green, powerful energy. And that includes nuclear. Much to the chagrin of everybody, we're gonna need nuclear power. I was anti-nuclear for many years. I've since switched that. I've seen the new designs, the new things, but the old infrastructure and the lobbyists and the people that are in charge of the old school, the infrastructure is just so ingrained, particularly with oil, and with the petrodollar and with pipelines and everything else. The infrastructure, people just don't want to give it up. They put too much effort to give that up, to try something different. That's why there's so much resistance to this change. But with Bitcoin, you can stabilize the grid. You can take clean, powerful energy, from all the elements, from earth, wind, fire, and water. So you have earth, that's the volcanoes. That's what they're doing in El Salvador. You have fire, that's nuclear. You have wind turbines, and then you have water. There's all sorts of different, whether it's hydroelectric dams, or even even fusion. Turning water into fire. You can do that through a fusion process, through electrolysis, or even a combustion process where you do separate the electrolysis and fire off the hydrogen and burn it. So that's another. You can take water and turn it into fire. These be able to do that cleanly, cheaply, and efficiently. That's up to the scientists and people. But what they lack is an incentive to do it. The incentive for dollars is to have a perpetual machine to enforce stealing from our children through through the military, through bombs, cages, and starvation. And so if people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing under the dollar standard, then you have the military industrial complex to take care of that. The thing is, the military industrial complex is the number one consumer of oil, so it requires oil to function. So it creates this tidy cycle where you have the dollar needs the oil, which needs the dollars, which needs the oil, which needs the energy of the military industrial complex to enforce the unethical stealing of energy from children in the future. So you have this perpetual cycle of military industrial complex, oil, and the dollar just revolving around itself, creating this black hole that continually sucks out the energy of our children's future. And in order for us to survive as a species, that has to stop. And what Bitcoin does, that it takes that element out and stops stealing from children and starts going directly towards the source, and that's the elements that create this energy, whether it's wind, fire, water, or earth. Bitcoin is the avatar of energy. I say it all the time. It is, this is what makes it superior to other energy, to other monies, particularly fiat. But if you do the same, you're doing the same thing when you mint mint money in the cryptocurrency. That's why Bitcoin is different from other cryptocurrencies because of the proof of work. There are other proof of work coins out there. There's Casper, there's Bitcoin Cash, there's Ethereum Classic, but they don't have the network effect that Bitcoin has. It is spread, and the mindset that's different, the mindset that we Bitcoiners actually have. Is a deep, deep, 5 levels down, 5 orders of magnitude thought process of what Bitcoin is. So I hope I've explained why it's superior, because you're going to get in proof of stake, whether it's Solana, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Near, whether it's any of these proof of stake coins, even Stacks to some degree, although Stacks is a little bit different, and I'll talk about that in another video. That proof of stake is no different than the fiat. You're just taking money, you're just printing something, creating value to steal from children. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. And it has to do with them NFTs and other things. Now there's responsible ways to maybe possibly do that, and that's what I'm going to get into with the Stacks ecosystem in another video. But the problem is people are corruptible and irresponsible, and Bitcoin is not corruptible. We want to ossify it, but we also want to build infrastructure around it. And I believe Stacks and Lightning, in particular, the two oldest L2s out there. There are other L2s that are okay, but they're not as decentralized and they're not as inclusive as these two layer 2 Stacks and Lightning Network. So that's all I have for this video. I hope I've explained it. You understand that the fiat currency has two different types of money. You have the Federal Reserve prints reserves for the banks to borrow against and then lend you money and interest that they got from stealing children's energy. And then you have the Treasury bills that the Treasury Department prints those bills to steal future energy from children to pay for roads, bridges, and war. So we go into that to who's essential and who isn't, what AI's future is, because of AI that model is unsustainable. Then we go to what's possible with the avatar of energy. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Have a good day.